As far back as I can remember, really, I've wanted to be an artist, apparently since 1989. I was 8 years old. Thank you, Mom, for keeping this. It's just always been something I've wanted to do. I went to school in Northern California. I'm born and raised in San Francisco Bay Area. I got my BFA in studio art at CSU Chico. Yes, I did go to school. It was a lot of fun. You know, art was just always a big thing for me to do. I graduated in 2004. It was a good year. Facebook was launched. This is an old drawing. I gotta say, Facebook and social media in general, I owe a lot to. They've helped further my career. They've gotten my artwork out there. They've got me jobs. So this is just kind of fun. After I graduated college, moved to New York City, you know? Like most, hopefully most art graduates do. They want to move to the big city, big goals, big dreams, big city, and be a famous artist, right? It's easy. It's an easy combination there. You know, making money doing art is a hard thing to do in New York. A lot of people want to do it there. So my main bread and butter was actually bartending. I bartended for about the whole career I was there, about 7.5 years. But I did pick up jobs anytime I could. Anything I could touch my hands with to make art. So this was one of my favorites. I worked at a publishing company, Workman Publishing, and for 2 months, I got to build and construct these little paper toy monsters to help edit the instructions and make sure it read correctly and the function was there. So this is what my desk looked like for about 2.5 months. It's the only desk job office I've ever had, so I think I'm doing okay. You know, 7.5 years later, I'm having a great time. It's a lot of distractions in New York. I'm bartending. I'm trying to do art on the side. I had about 12 solo shows, and I did sell, and people were responding to my artwork. So I knew it was good, but the focus on my passion, my personal artwork, was starting to fade faster and faster. And I made the bold decision to pack up my 5 bags and move back to California. I'm very thankful I did it. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't at that point. So back in San Francisco, it felt a little weird to be back. I missed my New York, but you can take the lady out of New York, but you can never take New York out of the lady. Back in San Francisco, it was good to be back. Free-minded, happy people, grass. This is Dolores Park in San Francisco. It was really good to be back and be in nature and that sort of thing. So no complaints. But I was back. I didn't have a job. I needed to pick up some work. This is a distillery. It's called St. George Spirits. It's in Alameda, California. It's about 10 miles south of San Francisco, and it's located on an old hangar base for the Navy. So there's tons of these empty hangars. They're about 65,000 square feet. The base closed down in 1997, and various businesses have moved in, such as St. George Spirits. I got this job because I had a lot of background in spirits and the booze industry, and so I was doing tours, I was doing tastings, I was doing cocktail development, and this was just a fun way to kind of get back in the groove of California. That it's a very important part of my timeline, very important part of my life, and I had absolutely no fun doing it, none at all. Only about a couple months into working for this distillery, they underwent some construction. These black walls went up to kind of cover up the construction to make it look a little nicer. And one day my boss was like, you know, we should probably put some signs up. We can help direct traffic, the public, maybe give some instructions for people. And I kind of raised my hand. I was like, can I draw on those? And no one at St. George knew I was an artist, so she was like, well, what do you do? And I started to doodle a little bit, and she's like, oh my God, just go for it, have fun. So this is an old photo, about 2011, so I just was having fun with it. And this was an important photo. I'm glad it got captured because it was my first time just like going for it, doing like a public mural, not drawings, not paintings in my own time with drawing, previous drawings or sketches. So this moment right here is really, really important for me. About 2 years into working for St. George Spirits, next door, another 65,000 square foot hangar, a brewery was going in. They had plans to have the entire space in the front parking lot. You can literally see the skyline of San Francisco. So a destination place for people to come out. Unfortunately, another company, a very successful company, I won't say any names, jumped in and swooped in on the prime real estate and bought out the other half of the hangar. So for the brewery, it was really sad, it was really horrible, but what's even more horrible is that they put in a giant wall going right down the middle of this hangar, 65,000 square feet, so huge wall. It was completely unfinished, it looked like this, and once they opened, This room that it's in is actually where people come to drink and enjoy and take photos and have a good time. So a lot of people started complaining about this. Like, what's going on? What's happening here? So I saw this as a door, an opening, an opportunity. Oh, a blank wall. I know what to do with that. So I approached the owners and I kind of pleaded my case. Here's my proposal. I'll do it for this little bit amount. It was my first gig, so just wanted to get on in there, make sure I got the job. And I would prime the wall, I would paint the wall, I would art the wall, as long as they supplied a scissor lift. I did all this right before I went to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, having a good time, and I said, think about it, I'm gonna go have fun, we can talk about it when I get back, and hopefully we can move forward. Well, little did I know, 2 weeks later, I come back, and they tell me, the scissor lift's gonna be here in 3 days, and you have 30 days. We rented it for 30 days, no more. So I was ready to get to work, needless to say, and I painted the whole thing, primed it, etc., by hand. I ended up doing 3,000 square feet, so from right about where that is to a little bit further outside the screen, it's about 3,000 square feet. In this room, like I said, is where public can come and drink and watch and observe, and also tell me lots of fun thoughts that they have and opinions, like, that's a big fucking wall. Yeah, I know it's a big fucking wall. I'm doing it. So I decided to, kind of kibosh that whole thing, put this on my scissor lift, and, it's like, let's keep it down, let's keep it down. Here I am, 30 days, actually probably about 27 now because I've primed and painted, and I have 3,000 square feet cover. I don't use aerosol. I do everything by hand, so that's just paintbrush and paint, that's it. I had no sketch, no concept, no projector, nothing to fall back on, no training wheels. Training wheels weren't even attached, they were immediately off. So I had this challenge of like, how am I gonna attack this thing? I kind of devised this technique, if you will, that I still use today, and that's basically starting with the eyes. If I can get the eyes all the same scale, all the same size, nose can be the same scale, the hands can be the same scale, the objects, words, etc. And if I do kind of like a typewriter, bottom to top, left to right, hopefully I can get everything to look the same, which it did, thankfully. Doing live art in front of hundreds of people, which is what I'd rather be doing now, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. It was like, oh my God, I don't want to make a mistake. I got over it pretty quickly. I had a lot of fun with it. This was at a time when I was learning how to use a scissor lift for the first time, so that's good. Definitely got over being afraid of heights, that's for sure. But getting comfortable with using the equipment and being confident with what I was doing is a huge thing that I took away from this project. And it was incredible. People were coming out, they were watching me work, they were coming up to me when I would come off and be like, I'm super inspired. I started painting again just because I've watched you. So this was like my first kind of taste of doing public artwork, which is why I feel like I'm on this planet. And so this was a huge project for me, not just the scale, but just for me personally. So again, learning how to use a scissor lift, not so good in the beginning. I ran into a few walls, but when life gives you lemons, you make glory holes. You make glory holes. So when I was done, I finished 3,000 square feet in 28 days. I did it. I did it. Very proud of myself. Everything looked good. A lot of people started paying attention, including Time Out. This was a very flattering thing. I got on their top 10 graffiti sites, although it's not so much graffiti, but top 10 graffiti in San Francisco, which was pretty cool, and I like the Simpsons reference as well. More people started to reach out for murals. I did this in 2 days. This is in San Francisco in the Mission District at an artist live workspace in their hallway. I could push the boundaries a little bit more with my oddity. I think I excited people and disturbed people all at the same time. It's pretty good. It's a hard balance. More places started to reach out. I started to do various spots like bars. People had blank walls at their clothing stores. They wanted art done, and this was exciting. I was painting, I was drawing on walls, I was getting paid, so it's pretty good. So I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, work's coming in. I'm getting better, I'm getting faster, I'm getting paid, I can kind of put this in the pocket, in the bank. I decided to wean myself off of my full-time job, so that meant giving up benefits, giving up paid vacation, sick leave, etc. But the feeling that I was getting from having hands on my day and my shoes and my pants was much more important for me at this time in my life. So inside the hangar, that 65,000 square foot distillery hangar, on the other side of the production room, just tons of old offices from back in the day that literally were collecting dust. They were empty rooms, and I approached the owner of St. George Spirits, and I was like, that office over there. Can I use it? And he's a huge fan of art, so thankful for that. He let me turn it into my studio, which was incredible, and I don't have to pay rent, so I'm winning right there even more. But this is a photo I think I set everything up this day and was very excited. Much better from a studio in New York City, which was in a closet, so I could feel like I'm moving up in the world. But here's a fun before photo and, of course, the aftermath. Studio, meant to study, so I was at this time where I had a little bit of money in the bank. I wasn't on the schedule for a 9 to 5, so I had time to explore. I explored pushing my styles, my characters, colors, and posting everything along the way. So this is Instagram and Facebook, and got lots of response. People were really happy, even just posting things from my sketchbook, trying to do it on a daily basis, getting a following and getting people to respond to my work, which is really good. This next one was my favorites. So Adele had just put out her album, and Hello, the song, her first hit, and I just remember being in my car at a stoplight just looking over and people trying to scream this song out, to belt this song out. It looked like their heads were going to explode. So don't Adele and drive. Don't Adele and drive. Shel Silverstein, one of my favorites. You can see it in my work, at least I think so. Studio time was great. I was having fun. I was only working 2 days a week at this time in the distillery. Coffee in the morning, work all day, having a good time. The more I started to post things, the more jobs I got. So I started to get work for restaurants and bars. This is for a restaurant chain called Tender Greens, mainly on the West Coast, but they are branching out. In the pursuit of happiness, aren't we all? Aren't we all? This is a favorite one as well, Lemon Wedgie. But I started a website on Squarespace. You can get revenue, sell things. And I started posting drawings, art, anything I could, and they were literally flying off the virtual shelf. So I knew I was on the right path. I invested in turning one of my popular drawings into a copper plate, which was really cool because inside the distillery, remember the owner of this distillery is a huge art fan. He had a Vandercook letterpress from the 1920s that I was able to use. So let's just go ahead and wrap this up here in this 1 second. I have a studio, I'm working, I'm making art, I'm getting paid. It's in a distillery next door to a brewery. I think things are good, right? So not too bad. October 2015, I take the big plunge to completely take myself out of my job at the distillery and to completely immerse myself in my career, my art, networking, trying to get out there, which means the hustle switch is way on. I don't know if it's a combination of luck and fate and just my work ethic, but in that same month, I got a very important email. Hopcat is an American pub. It started in Michigan, Grand Rapids, and they have about 12 locations right now, I think, and one just opened in Lincoln Park in Chicago. So go check them out. They're pretty cool. Their crack fries are amazing. But the owner of Hopcat is pretty rad. He has a different artist, a street artist, an artist attack the walls, the entire thing. So it's not bathroom cookie cutter art, if you will. So I got proposed to, come out and do one of their locations to do the entire restaurant. He had seen my mural at the brewery and fell in love while he was in his travels. So I wrote back, I'm like, yes, tell me more. Where am I going? How big is it? Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska. It's like, all right, let's do it. I mean, to be really honest, I didn't care where it was. I was hungry. I wanted a wall. I wanted to get paid. I wanted more. I wanted more. It didn't matter that I was in Lincoln, Nebraska in the middle of February. So this is a pivotal point for me too, because not only was I going to be doing this huge job, the paycheck was also going to match the work that was going to be done. So I had a nice little nest egg. So I took the big plunge to give up my apartment, put everything in my studio, pay off a credit card, basically have no ties, no monetary ties, etc. And I basically decided to, almost like a music band does, take the show on the road. I started a hashtag called Asta Art Tour, and my goal was to get to Lincoln, do this project, and then hop around to as many cities as I could and kind of showcase my artwork and say, hey, you got a blank wall. I know what I can do with that. So I got a GoPro and started this mission, and that was 8 months ago. So I got to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was ready to, get my banana suit on and be fun and loosey-goosey with this, but this was a very interesting project. A lot of obstacles with this one. The restaurant wasn't done yet, which meant there was no heat and there was no light. So that was interesting. I had to start my day typically around 5 p.m. and completely turn into like an art vampire. So I worked till about 2 a.m. You can imagine no heat and no light, trying to create an art piece. My eyes adjusted, my body adjusted, and it was actually kind of fun. It was pretty cool to be alone in this gigantic space. It allowed me to progress my style, my technique, and have a lot more line confidence in my work without a bunch of people watching. My GoPro I got to know really well. I started to document things in new ways. You know, I'm doing all this by hand, paintbrush by paintbrush. Sometimes it felt like this is never gonna end, I'm never gonna do this. But luckily, the project was a success. I finished close to 4,000 square feet inside this restaurant by hand, by myself, in the dark, no heat, no light, in just over a month. And this was an incredible building block for me now. I have a professional building block in my portfolio, and so the next place is up, which is Brooklyn, New York, on the ground. I did go back to Brooklyn to see some old buddies, and I went to an old bar that I used to work at, and it was a mess. There was graffiti everywhere. There was so much damage, and I basically offered my services. I was like, look, let me just do this for a small fee, and luckily they let me do it, and I had some fun with that. While I was in Brooklyn, I also had some time to do some networking. The really, really long story short is a couple friends through the power of Instagram and Facebook got me in touch with the good folks at Threadless headquarters, which is a very cool artistic creative t-shirt company in the West Loop in Chicago. And they're in association with the Soho House, which does a rotating mural project. So it was off to Chicago, packed my bags, and here we go. If you have driven down Green Street, you've probably seen these before. These are the north and south corners of the Soho House, and every month they rotate for a different street artist to do. So this was the before. It was very cool. This is a California girl. Beginning of April, I'm used to, you know, trying to expect a little spring along the way, but it was freezing. Sun finally came out, so did Flat Stanley, so that was pretty cool. This experience was pretty incredible because of the location of the Soho House and all the foot traffic going by. I had so much network going on face-to-face with people. A lot of people coming up wanting my card. I was getting cards. Connections were being made, and my Instagram account, I think, went into like the thousands, which was pretty cool with the exposure of being here and also through the Threadless exposure as well. It was also a time that I basically learned how shocked people were to see a single female doing this all by hand in the cold and as a full-time career. You know, if you ever see an artist working, don't go up to them and ask, are you a real artist? It's kind of a weird question. I never really knew how to explain it. Like, yeah, I am. Nonetheless, this was a great project. I finished it in 4 days. That was because a random blizzard came through and I had to switch paint about halfway through because it wasn't actually sticking to the wall. So that was an interesting learning curve. But it was this job that got me this very important wall. Some of you might recognize it. It's actually physically not there anymore, but this wall lived on Morgan and Lake, the corner right there. A gentleman named Jeff Shapak reached out to me of Shapak Partners Development Co. and said, listen, we've seen some of your work. We're really excited. We want an artist to come out and do a mural project. The only catch is it's only going to be up for a couple months. You'd be interested? And I saw a picture. I'm like, yeah. Look at that beauty, absolutely. It also meant I got to stay in Chicago longer, which is pretty cool. We were off and running, of course, starting with the eyes first, and this was a new location. Of course, new things come along with it. People would basically be walking to the train station for work in the morning, and they would see me start to work about 8 a.m., and then they would come home from work and they would see the progress I did throughout the day. So people started posting and tagging, and I started to see this huge response that people wanted to share it on their personal accounts, but also the fact that they were very thrilled and excited to actually have my work in their neighborhood. So that's always a good thing. Lots of beautiful photos being taken every day. I love this one. A gentleman was walking by, I had this on, taking pictures of my artwork. I'm like, oh my God, can I please wear that? Because I truly believe Chicago does hustle harder. It's pretty cool. But it was at this point too that I realized that creating a language, different words and combinations with images, getting a huge response from people. People wanted to know, what does that mean? What does this mean? What is that person saying to this person? And it became a really interesting dialogue between me and the public. Did I always give the answer? No, that's for you to decide. That's the whole part of art. The sun came out, and so did people. People started to interact with it, and people were specifically coming out, making time in their day to do things like this in front of my mural. I saw graduation photos, I saw engagement photos, music videos, you name it, I saw it. And this is all while I'm working. It was distracting, but in a very, very good, positive way. And you can see lots of people getting creative and interacting. I got a little creative myself. This was on Mother's Day. Got a lot of people taking photos of that. People were having fun. They were taking selfies. They were doing posed photos, group photos, family photos, fashion photos. It became a thing where people had to take turns to actually get in front of my mural to work on it. And I think someone even actually asked me if I could move my stuff out of the way so they could take a photo, which is pretty funny. Really amazing, amazing people out there. It's also a very positive thing, people feeling good about themselves, taking photos of themselves and being silly, being creative, expressing themselves in wonderful ways, really having a lot of fun with it. Even some pups getting involved, which was pretty cool. Here's me striking my pose. Okay, so domino effect. This one wall continued to get me work throughout Chicago. So this was at Havas Worldwide. I finished this in 2 days. So not only is my style getting more profound and specific, it's also getting a lot faster. I actually did a mural in Threadless in their headquarters. This is in their front lobby, which is pretty cool. I did this in 3 days. This is at Multiple in their office. Got a chance to leave my mark at their office. More murals started to pour in, and every time I look at a wall like this, kind of like wall porn. I get all excited. I'm like, I must have it. I must have it. So this is located at Windy City Diner. Again, I'm doing all this by myself. Of course, there's Swell Elegant again up there. So 800 square feet. I did this in 5 days, getting very confident at this point in my career. Got linked up to go to Memphis, Tennessee, and all these projects are back to back. I literally am eating and sleeping and drinking art, but it was a great project and we had a lot of fun with it. So after 4 months, this is what my shoes look like. I was ready to take a break. But no, it's back on the airplane. This is actually me at the airport, and you might recognize this sticker. I was on my way back to Chicago, which is pretty cool. My next project was this bad boy, the biggest project I've had to date. This is in Pilsen, Chicago. It's Lacuna Artists Loft, Studios and Workspace. And everywhere you see white was my canvas. So this is about 5,000 square feet. So keep in mind, this is still me by myself, hand painting, and very strict deadlines, 30 days to do 5,000 square feet. I was able to use ladders, but as the project continued, I eventually had to get on a boom, and there wasn't a lot of public interaction, so I had a lot of time to focus and really, really get into my style and my techniques. This was up on the boom. Definitely not afraid of heights on this one, that's for sure. Huge, huge building, and this project was so important for me, the momentum and the passion, that I actually moved into one of the empty rooms, slept on an air mattress, and basically I had my bag, so it was up, art, sleep, rinse, and repeat. This was a photo that a drone took. If it looks hot, it's because it was. I was outside every day in this heat, sporting and gaining a pretty sweet watch tan. I went through 5 of these 32-ounce tubs. I took photos of my hands every day. When my hands look like this, I'm doing something right, and it's the happiest I've ever been in my life. So it looked like the building was filling up. There's the boom. So this project I did finish in 30 days. Actually, that's a lie. It was 34 days. But, you know, rain and sleep had to happen. But 30 production days. Between the lines, I knew that that building was going to be torn down. So I took advantage. I have an idea. When I was working on this mural, and a lot of murals that I work on, people ask me, "Can I color that in? Gonna color that in?" No, I'm not gonna color it in, but I took this opportunity to have people come out and help me color it in. This is Jeff Shapak. He was extremely generous. He got paint supplies. He started painting. It started raining, unfortunately, but it didn't stop people. I think close to 100 people, maybe even a little more, came out, and we all started to paint. And it really brought the community together. It was really, really incredible. And these are people taking photos and interacting and having fun. This is what public art is all about. And things started to again shift for me. If you could feel what a perma smile feels like, you'd be in my shoes during this event. It was absolutely incredible. I couldn't have been happier with the way this went. I truly felt like I had made an impact in Chicago through art. So public art, it's so important to have it in our lives. And the fact that so many people are interacting and taking photos in front of this, making it a point of their day to come out to it, should be a consistent reminder that art should always be a part of our lives. So this was up for about a week until it got knocked down. I also had people responding with like, Why would she do something like this and know that it was going to get torn down? Why put so much time into something like this? And for me, it was like, well, nothing's permanent. And if I have an opportunity to help people embrace the moment and remember those moments and cherish them in any way and capacity they can, then I also feel like I'm doing a service for the community and people in general. So this was an interesting sight to see. The design of the line, what my paintbrush can do to create lines, images, and words. When you combine images and words, you get these narratives. Whether it's the narrative I sent out in the world for you to experience, it really just depends on who you are. So I should have kissed you longer. It's on the other side. This is in Los Angeles. The gentlemen's beards are entangled with the women's hair. They're pointing, they're saying, come hither, what is exactly going on? That's for you to decide. When you mix red with blue, what do you get? Purple! The most important purple in the world. Yes, yes, yes. Oops, how did those get in there? When you combine ketchup with hot dogs, what do you get? The perfect dog! I'm just kidding. I know where I am. Really tasty, beautiful chocolate soft serve, and you combine, oh no, now it's disgusting. The lines are important, people. When you combine gin with olives, what do you get? Me after this talk. Yes, yes, yes. Hopefully I've inspired you today, and I thank you very much.